We got another question. Never played a campaign of D&D to level 20. How do you make high end? How do you make high level endings climactic? It's hard not to. It's a big multiverse out there in D&D. There are lots of high level threats: Trasks, ancient dragons. You got liches, liches for days. There's, I mean, and again, world ending events, and some things maybe aren't even nefarious. Like, imagine something severing the multiverse in some way. I once did an escape from an entire planet, and that was their goal, was to try to get everyone off.
Yeah.
That was a bit terrifying, but I think there are lots of examples. I know Lauren Urban does not like time travel. I love time travel. I certainly, it can be overused and abused, but time travel can be a very fun way to also like show the stakes of a thing too. Like if you get a vision of the future of how
Yeah.
bad things may end up being, that can set the tone for like, okay, we can really not screw this up, right?
Yeah.
I showed my players in a completely dead world where everything had been decimated and it was just a sea of undead. Yeah. After they saw that and they went back in time, they're like, okay, so we should really, really need not to screw this up. Things,
Oh my God.
things are going to be really bad. So let's bring our A game.
Well, I love that. It's like a super boosted augury. Like this is going to be bad. Whoa, guys, with a capital W.
Yeah. Not like the liches in Control bad, but like everyone's gone.
No, it's like Terminator, but undead instead of machines.
Yeah,
it's bad.
So come correct. Like you're not just battling for the kingdom,
right? So I think knowing the stakes is really important. I agree with you. I think like eventually at epic level, high level games, like by their very nature, they're going to be epic and satisfying and high stakes. But like you can really get the players when you start making it personal for their characters. And because you've been playing that long, your characters have probably started to form attachments and sort of made themselves a part of the world. And like I've seen this with every character that's made it that long. The most jaded, burned out power gaming min-maxer, by the time they get to level 20 or so, they have things they care about, that are narrative elements embedded in the world, and like weaving those into it, making them part of the larger conflict, and like really making it personal, for the characters. That way there's like multiple stakes on multiple levels, just like the multiverse ending threat. But then there's maybe also a threat to someone they care about, or an institution they're invested in, or their reputation. Especially high level games. Like I think the tendency is to always go for like, oh God, we could all be obliterated and annihilated at any moment. And I love those because the stakes are like ultimate. But if every one of them is like that, you start to get burned out. So having some stakes that are like, listen, your characters can't special attack their way out of this. Like this is going to require some other kind of finesse. Your enemies are going after your characters, public image, their reputation. Not just on this plane, but they're going to burn they're going to burn every bridge they can between here and Mount Celestia. Every extra planar, broker and transporter and magic items dealer, that kind of thing. But those can be satisfying arcs too, for epic games.
Don't forget heists.
Oh God, I love a heist. 20th level heist is awesome.
Yeah, things get weird. So things can get real weird with the 20th level heist. What you stealing? It's my favorite thing about Thief the Dark Project, the video game. I got to steal from a god. I'm like, okay, well, I'm on board.
Let's do it.
Let's see.
Triple nested in my plane.
Yeah. We got a question. Do you plan for the end of a campaign at the start? I will put in narrative hooks way ahead of time from the very first, what I would call the pilot in my head. It tends to be some sneaky stuff, like there's a cloaked figure or this weird thing happens that is inexplicable, really. I've done this multiple times, and certainly my players are victims of it because now they're always paranoid about what I meant. But they will find something strange. Like, for instance, once it seemed very innocent, but someone found a little earthworm on the ground when they woke up unconscious. That became a major plot point later on. Um, so I like to put little narrative hooks into stuff, with not with the rigidity of like saying, "Hey, this is how this campaign's going to end," because that's not fair to your players. But to give yourself like, "Aha! Look how smart I am!" Like, it's all illusion, it's all smoke and mirrors. But like, give yourself that out. I think.
Yeah, I think every DM ever, at some point when they're creating something for their game for their players, like how can they not also imagine what it would be like if it ended the way they conceive of its beginning? Like I think the trip up is them saying like that's how it has to be. So
Mm-hmm.
you always have an idea of how it could end, um, and so like in that sense, like you can draw on that as inspiration and just like have these as little elements. And so if you catch a moment where the course of play kind of matches up with your vision, you just are ready to stick this thing in. You go like, oh, I wanted to use this. I was hoping that I'd get a chance to. And that's how you can work those things into a more organic, emergent game. Um, and so that's how I kind of like to do it. I between having adventures that have discrete endings that don't just continue indefinitely until
Mm-hmm.
we're all an arbitrarily high number, but it's like, well, we're going to be doing this for the next 4 or 5 sessions, and then we'll see what else we want to do. And there's carryover in terms of NPCs and the like. But if we needed to, we could stop right there, and that would be a successful 5 session campaign. And we played for that long, and we'll play again when we have a chance. So I've moved away from the big quest that you go from first to 20th on, and I'm more like, we're going to do 3 or 4 of these, and that'll be second level for us. We'll have these discrete adventures in the
Mm-hmm.
same place with the same NPCs, but the stakes are very personal and very much driven by like the interactions of the players with the setting, as opposed to like something coming and imposing on them, like a big quest might do. Bad guy shows up, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I like it's in when you get that far in the campaign, like but giving your players like maybe they want to create a pirate fleet or give them a little bit
Yeah,
more of a, and that's something. There's something to be said for that fourth or fifth act that we saw in Return of the King, right? Like getting to role play that out.
mhm.
I do kind of enjoy it when you do like fight the big bad and everything's said and done, and then you do one more session.
Yep, epilogue.
That that becomes so much about role playing
Yeah,
and saying goodbye. I think that can be very functional in many ways, like the opposite of the session, not the opposite of the session zero, right? But like really the big wrap up of where you just get to talk as characters and you're like, we did the
yeah,
thing. Um, I don't have to worry about rolling death saves right now. Like,
yeah.
and some of those players may just be like, I'm going to the West.
Yep. I brought one of the campaigns to a close, like in that way. The players wanted to go to 20th level. We stalled out around 17th or so. And the game was coming to like a natural close. So we're like, we don't want to like get something started only to end it in a few other levels. So I said, you know what? Everybody level up to level 20. And you tell me something you'd like for your character to do that involves everyone else. Everybody else can get in on it and is an adventure in and of itself.
Mm,
And so we played 5 hour-and-a-half long little mini vignettes, based on what their characters wanted to do. One of them's like, she was like a 20th level vampire necromancer. It's like, I want to slay Orcus and take his divine spark. So we
mm-hmm.
played that, right? Another person was like, my character needs a bride. They're a king without a queen. I want to go get married. So we played through that. And of course, it involved a ton of adventure. And another's like, I want to set up this thing. So each one of them got to go their separate ways and have that moment where their character's in the spotlight and going out in the way they want to. But because I put the onus on the players to like, hey, make sure everybody else can get in on this, because it's still a game of D&D, right? You know, we're going to fight things. There's going to be adventure. Everybody wants in on the action. It was very satisfying, extremely satisfying.
Excellent. I believe, and we just gave away a copy of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, which is a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. And yeah, we already did that in there. Wow. Yeah. So I don't know. Any final thoughts on all of this? It's I really hope that anyone who's getting into D&D now gets to experience a long-term campaign and it ending. It can be so overwhelmingly emotional and give so much back to you. You'd be so surprised.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think certainly people who watch live streams have experienced that to a great degree, because you're spending like 3 to 4 hours with those characters, and you're kind of getting that window into like, this is why it's so tough on them,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and
I
great
mean,
for them as
emotional
well.
investment's emotional investment, you know, like
Yeah.
it still feels the same, you know. Um,
And those are
I,
memories that you also have forever for whatever reason. The way the mind works, the fact that you are having this shared narrative and you are imagining these things happening, you can almost imagine storytelling more than your own life sometimes,
yeah.
because of the effort that has to be made, right? You're
Yeah.
analyzing what someone else is saying, you're analyzing what you're saying in your head, and it all kind of comes together.
Yeah. It's very brain intensive. You put a lot of work into it. It's gonna hang on to it. Um, yeah. So we've talked a lot about like the high level games and like long running games, and I don't want to leave our short term lower level friends out in the cold, because I think that those, like, even if all you get to is level 3, because that's
Hmm.
just all you have time for, attention or interest or whatever, like, you that doesn't mean you got to go out small time, right? Like that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you can't, you know, give your players a bunch of obscenely high level magic items if you want to just play with things for a while. Or if you know you don't have that long of a game, a chance to game, and you don't know how far you're going to get to try out those things that you might otherwise go like, I don't know, that's a little unbalanced, or that's going to make my life difficult.
Hmm.
You can try them out and have sort of a fun time wrecking shop through a short campaign. But even if you're not going for like a gonzo sort of like kitchen sink sort of experience, like by making adventures and sort of crafting villains and situations for your players to find themselves in, or find their characters in, rather, like making those personal for the characters, looking at their bonds, their flaws, their ideals, working, from session 0 on up. uh, by including those things in your adventures, then you can break it off at any other point and say, wish we could continue, but like fourth, fifth, seventh, whatever level, as high as we're going to get, like it's still been personal. It's still
Yeah.
like really been about something, and give a chance for the players to see the impact that their characters have had, and like that's a payoff. You can couple that with the fact that it's limited by your imagination. It's easy to forget that you know the rules serve your imagination, not the other way around.
Hmm.
And if something's not working for you, if you wish something was within the grasp of the players because you don't have that much time to play, then let them have it.
Hmm.
Maybe, give them the sun and make them work for the moon, you know but to have fun with it and to understand that just because you didn't make it to that higher level, or just because you didn't get to see those fun toys that the classes get after 10th level or whatever, like, number one, that's still a great game of D&D, and number two, there's nobody stopping you from just stealing liberally from all that high level stuff and giving it to your low level players to play with for a while.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Jim Davis. Where can everyone find you? You are multiple places.
Yeah, we really are. So we're on YouTube over on our main WebDM channel. That's our main show. It comes out on Wednesdays. We've got, pretty much the a refined show format at this point in our channel history. We do have a podcast now, which is an audio version of the Wednesday show. Sometimes a little bit more than that. That's over on WebDM Talks. Pretty much anywhere where you can find podcasts, we're there. And then if you feel like supporting us financially, we've got WebDM Patreon. We're also over on Twitch. WebDM Plays. That has its own separate Patreon that we pay our players out of and production staff. We're all over the place. Come check us out.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That is our Todd Talks on endings. Thank you so much for watching the show. Jim Davis, it is always fantastic to have you here, as well as the audience as well. Thank you so much, and have a great day. Stay safe. Don't forget to love each other.